Alright guys, so here we are at the beginning of the baseline video. It took a little bit longer than expected to make. I had a couple of issues that took up a lot of my time. Um, the main one being that I am running and testing the EA that I wrote that basically trades this algo automatically on the daily chart. Um, all the brokers, I'm doing it on multiple brokers. All the brokers worked 100% fine except for my Oanda US account. And that is because I thought I had the workaround for the FIFO violations, first in, first out, that is required in the United States. However, when the ATR went really low, like in the 40s and 50s, the lot sizes weren't different enough. So basically, the second trade, the one without the take profit, just would not be, wouldn't get taken. So I think for my workaround for right now, I'm going to just trade it on a $100,000 account versus a 10,000, which is what I normally. That's the default that everything goes to. So that's why I try to keep it at 10,000. But I know that if I bump it up to 100,000, then I won't. The lot sizes will be different enough to where it will take both trades. All right. So to recap, we've already found all right C1 and C2 indicator, and we're going to go ahead and use the all averages to find a baseline. It's basically a whole bunch of different moving averages that go on the chart, and we're basically going to test out every single one of them to see which one works best with your algorithm. If you happen to have a baseline that you really like, that's a little bit more of a common one, like a simple moving average or a whole moving average, it's going to be in this one indicator. Some of the more custom baselines and some of the kind of ones that aren't as common aren't going to be listed in there. So I would say that this is probably a really good starting point. And then once you run through this, you can start going through your other baselines to see how they stack up against the best one that the out of the all averages. First off, we are going to be using the settings that we have from the last run. We'll go over past 1165 at the end of the video so I can show you those results, but we're going to be sticking with 959 and that will come clear a little bit later. So what we're going to want to do is come on over to the sheet. We saw that we had input 1 at 33, input 3 at 46. So we want to come over here, change this to 33, change this to 46, and we want to uncheck the boxes. That way it uses these settings and it doesn't go through anything else. So for baseline, you got quite a few options as well as any custom ones you want to try, but we're going to focus on one for today. It's going to be the all averages. So let's go ahead and I'm going to come over here, averages, and copy and paste the settings in. All right, so we have our settings, and let's go ahead and hit OK. And just so I can show you guys, I'm turning visual mode on this all the way to the right so you can see it. Oh, almost forgot. We want to change this to baseline slash C1 signal plus baseline C1, C2, volume, agree, plus E. The reason why we want to do this one is because we want it to take the signal whether you get a baseline cross or a C1 cross. The one above it is only going to take baseline entrances, and we don't want to do that for this. So we'll select this, hit OK, going to hit start, And I'm going to drag this down so we can take a look at the chart. I'm going to hide most of these because we don't need them. We're only looking at one thing, and that is the baseline. So all averages is an interesting one because you have all these different moving averages, about 36 or 37, I believe. So basically the way we're going to do it is it's going to select a certain range of periods to test, and it's going to go through every single one of these so that you can see which ones typically work best with your algo. So taking a look at the simple moving average, I'm just going to change this real quick to 50 so you can see it. Obviously it's going to change drastically the results. The higher you go, the less signals you're typically going to get. VP says in the baseline video that you kind of want one that at least hugs a little bit the actual price. Otherwise, you're going to come up with something that's like maybe like 250, where it's just all over the place. You're not getting very many entrances or exits. So I'm going to bring this back. I'm actually going to, let's set it to 50 for right now. So as you can see, going through each one, it's going to change. Most of the time it's not by a lot, but it's definitely enough to, you know, kind of change your signals. So I'm going to change this to 150, and we can take a look here that, you know, this is obviously a big change. All these are underneath. All these are above for sells or buys. And trying to double click, but there we go. You got to kind of look at these one by one, at least to get a little bit familiar with them, because sometimes the higher periods tend to, it doesn't tend to be as outlandish as this over here. So I think this is one of them. Yeah, that 150 versus the other one is, you know, quite the difference. Let's see if we, maybe T3. Yeah, 150 at T3 is, you know, kind of hugging that price a little bit more than any of the others. So, I mean, you look at the Kijun Sun, and it's, you know, set at 26. That's the one VP goes off of in his baseline video as a starting point. It's normally something you kind of want a little bit faster. And the way that we're going to be doing this, it's, some are going to be very slow when you set to 150, and then some are going to be quicker, like when we selected the geometric mean, or I think it was the T3 back then. So just bear with me on that. So what we're going to do for all averages is we're going to change the period to input 5, and then this one over here is going to be input 6. So now input 6 is going to be the method. Alright guys, so we have the settings put in. We're going to want to go to input number 6, and we're going to want to select it, and we're going to set the start to 0 because the first moving average on the drop down is actually 0. It's not 1. We're going to do a step of 1, and we are going to stop at 35, and that will hit every single one of the actual moving averages within it. Second is we got to select a range, and this is where you kind of have a little bit more discretion as to how you want to do it. In the C1 video, I kind of did everything as like a step of 1, but I'll expand it a little bit more because I'll typically start at 10 and end at 150. And not all of them, not all moving averages I want to look at 150, but some of them respond differently and hug a little bit tighter as you go higher. So typically to start off, I would do start of 2, or I'm sorry, start of 10, step of 2. You can bump this up to 5, maybe 10 if you want. That would definitely be a lot less passes, but 2 is a good starting point, I think, for myself. So I'm going to go with that up to 150. And the other thing, since we were talking about rules in the introduction, the baseline exit is set to false. So that is it. We should be good to go. We have baseline C1 checked. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to turn off the visual mode and turn back on optimization. And let's see how many passes we're going to get. Okay, we're getting about 2,500 passes, which is what I'm used to seeing. And basically what we're going to do is run this in 2017, 2018, 2019, and for the majority of 2020, just like we did for the standard deviation sheet on the other one. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to save. And I'm going to do my usual add a B for baseline and add AA for all averages, FXSniper, and solar. And then I'm going to copy that over to the other VMs that I have and basically run it. So we'll check back on that when it is all done. All right, guys, well, let's take a look at the data. So I've already thrown everything in. We got 2017, 2018, and 2019. We're leaving out 2020 for now. So what we're going to do is profit standard deviation, sort A to Z. Wait for it to load, and here we've got, well, it's sorted by profit deviation. So what I like to do here is typically just kind of go through, and I'll make the ones I like bold. So this one doesn't look too bad. This one's pretty high, 9,000. It's going to be really tough. It's definitely a high profit number. I like that. It's going to be a little bit tough to figure out this portion, mainly because you have so many different options. You're looking at 3 years and about, I normally like to keep it under 1,000. I mean, you've got, you know, over 300 different combinations to choose from. So I'll just kind of go through here. 12 is pretty high. That's the one I like the most. Keep scrolling through. Not that one, the one below. I'm pretty much going to call it at that. So we have everything from 2017, 2018, 2019. Now what I'm going to do is essentially make a copy of this. So I'm going to duplicate it. And all the data is going to show up just as it was. But the one thing I'm going to do is just select all of 2020 and delete it. I don't want it to bring in any of it, and maybe do something like no 2020 standard deviation. So that way I've got my original and I'm not messing up the main one. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to throw in all the results from 2020. Now for 2020, I only ran it in a 6-month period. I don't think it's really advantageous to do it any sooner than that. Let's say if we were in 2021 and we've got like 2 months worth of data, 3-4 months worth of data, I wouldn't even mess around with this. Since we are halfway through the year, we can kind of use it to just weed out some of the algorithms that may not be working. So let's go over here, paste values only. And it'll start populating. Here's where it gets interesting. Because I used, not subpar, but not the best indicators, 2020 really took some hits in some of the algorithms so far. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at all the bold ones and see if any of them were worth anything, really. I can easily see it just by if there's no profit standard deviation. That just basically means that 1 year was negative, and we know it's going to be 2020. So already here, nope. 126, not really. Pretty much every one that we bolded out. Here's one right here. So to kind of differentiate these, maybe I'll go over and just move them to the left. That way it stands out a little bit more. So out of all those ones we had for this combination, there's only really one that kind of stood out, that we had bolded out. So still I'm not really liking it. Let's go up and scroll down and see if there were any others that weren't super negative. Okay, so 2082 doesn't look too bad. Maybe I'll move this one to the center. Let's keep going down. This one's not bad. And this one's not bad. That's pretty much where I'm looking at. All right, so that's what I kind of want to look at. 2082, 1229, even though only 7,300. And 322. So you know what? Probably I'll just go with 2082 because it's in the 9s, and 322 because it is in the 9s as well. So I think those are going to be my two. I'm going to go over to information, copy them over. so we can kind of move on from there. Okay, so we have our two favorite passes, and we're probably looking to narrow this down a little bit. So do we want to do 322 or 2028 going forward? And honestly, if you want to, you could do both. But first, let's go over to standard deviation. Let's sort it by pass. And let's just look at 322. And like what we did in the other videos, we kind of want to look at a couple above, a couple below. Doesn't seem to be too terrible. Let's see, 320 to 323. Sorry guys, slightly weird segue, had issues with the video, so I have to redo this part. So here we are looking at, we're going down to 322, which was the pass we liked. Input 4, 84, and from 20 to 23, that's not too bad of a range. Basically anything between 80 and 86 would have been pretty much all right. Now let's look at the other one. 2082. And this I'm not liking as much. Mainly because that seems to be like a real sweet spot, and everything else around it is just kind of coming up negative so far in 2020. So I'm going to say let's not use 2082 and just stick with past 322 and move forward with that one. Alright guys, so what's going to come next is we're going to take past 322 and basically put it through the ringer and find a good exit indicator as well as a volume indicator. So right off the bat, I'll tell you, we're not using the best indicators. We're using good, not great. A lot of the stuff that I have tested has come up with, in general, much better results for 2020, to where the majority of the stuff that showed up low on the standard deviation for the first 3 years carried over into 2020. But when we kind of use subpar indicators, we're not going to always get the best results. And also, it is a good idea to forward test. I mean, that's the real decider on our algos and whether or not we're going to move on with them. 6 months minimum forward testing to make sure that this thing is going to perform the way we want to. So a couple more thoughts. 2017 and 2018 were good years. 2019 a little bit low in volume, but overall still profitable. 2020, it's been weird. In my live trading accounts, on all the stuff that I'm forward testing, it seems, at least for me, that, and I can't speak to other traders out there, that right around the March, April, with that huge spike of volume and just volatility in total because of the whole COVID-19 pandemic, it kind of tripped a lot of my indicators, and it took a while for them to get back to a normal space, which is good because my volume indicator kept me out of a lot of really weird ups and downs within certain pairs. It's been really weird. But honestly, I feel like once 2020 is over and we're looking back on this, and if we have an algorithm that we can fully backtest for 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020, honestly, I think that algo is probably going to be pretty damn solid. I mean, it's going to have the normal years covered, the low volume, and just the, what the hell are the markets doing now? Just crazy amount of volume and volatility of 2020. Alright, so we also talked about pass 1165 in the previous video, and this is why I'm saying we're not moving forward at all with it. A lot of times you can just kind of throw the pass in through 2020, and for the first half of this year, you can see that it just did not do well. The absolute highest was around 1900 in profit, and if you scroll down, as you can see, there's everything is pretty much negative except for a handful of combinations. So at that point, I just said, you know what, the other pass looked a lot better for 2020, so I'm just dumping 1165 altogether. A final piece before we head out. Remember, too, that just for this video, we're not using baseline exits. We're not using C1 exits. So the baseline exit, I can tell you right now, will drastically change these numbers. And who knows, maybe you'll find better results going from, across all 4 years if that is turned on. So maybe that's worth you guys checking out. And that will conclude the baseline video. The next video in the series going over the exit indicator as well as the volume indicator should be out soon. Until then, feel free to join our Discord group. We can discuss stuff in more detail, maybe go over some different types of or not types, but ways of looking at the data and going through testing. And that's pretty much it. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and the new video should be out soon.